desert, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. Top 5 repeated mistakes in sports. And number 1 will allow us to talk about a current story today. Number 5, overvaluing prospects. This happens a lot more in Major League Baseball than it does in the other sports, but I will give you guys a great example of this. My favorite team, the Red Sox, traded Hanley Ramirez and got Josh Beckett out of that deal, a guy who helped them win a World Series. The Rangers could have traded Jurickson Profar and gotten David Price, a guy who also helped the Red Sox win a World Series, but held on to him. And look, Jurickson Profar has been in the major leagues now for about a decade, and he's a serviceable major league player. But holding on to him like he was going to change the whole franchise pretty much did change the whole franchise because they didn't get David Price. So teams too often overvalue prospects is where prospects mean, Smokey.
Maybe.
You haven't done it yet.
You haven't done it yet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So this is something that happens. I think about Jurickson Profar all the time where I see, trades go down where your team holds on to a guy and then he never sees the light of day on your team. You're like, well, why didn't you just do it then?
Yeah.
Like, what were you waiting for?
What you haven't done yet.
I mean, part of it, though, is you got to build somewhere. I mean, the Astros, if they just didn't overvalue prospects, could have traded away Carlos Correa and Jose Altuve and gotten a bunch of proven, free agent guys. So I agree to an extent. I agree that, like, the Rangers and Profar is a great example of, holding on way, way too long because of what could be. But sometimes you do that and you get Carlos Correa and Jose Altuve, and that's what he was supposed to be. I mean, that's what he was supposed to be. But no, you're right. There can be a lot of emphasis placed on those who haven't done it yet, which college football is reckoning with as we speak.
Yeah. Number 4, building your roster exclusively through free agency. The Jaguars do this, and then they wonder why they're not good yet. I mean, look at,
I can use a wrestling example here because you mentioned the Jaguars. Tony Khan, who's the son of Shad Khan, and Tony owns AEW, had a big pay-per-view last night. I've lost a bit of interest because their big pop the ratings thing has become, let's just sign another wrestler from, WWE or from whatever. But there's no, foundation. It's just things are slow, let's pop and sign somebody and get people excited. But then, the actual day-to-day that you need to, keep building never changes. And it's just stagnant. And then let's sign somebody and pop a rating. Well, now you got 100 wrestlers on your roster you don't know what to do with. But let's sign 100 first because that'll pop a rating. And it's you can pop the free agents. But if you don't actually put them to work and put them in a system that works and have some sense involved, and it's just a big signing that people celebrate for 5 seconds and forget about.
Yeah, and then the rest of the league is mad at you for ruining the wide receiver market for a year because you gave Christian Kirk a much money. And not that I'm sure he's a fine player. I mean, he'd be good in a lot of places, but who's good in Jacksonville? They're going to have to prove it first. I mean, it's just been so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I would have a hard time turning down guaranteed money if the Jaguars are the ones offering the most, but I almost do wonder if there's not a cutoff of how many million I'm willing to not take just to not go to a place where I know my career is not going to improve. I'm not going to get better as a player. If anything, I'm probably shortening my career by playing here, but hey, I made some money. And, I guess that's for each person who has to make that choice.
Yeah. Number 3, letting your owner be your GM. Gee, who are we talking about here, Smokey?
Was there a star on that one?
No, there he is.
I haven't heard a good Jerry, the owner versus Jerry, the GM phone call in a long time. It used to be.
Yeah.
Easy money right there, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, this one kind of speaks for itself. But, again, when you delineate these positions, and Jerry's done a better job of it lately of not being the GM. I mean, it's really now Steven and Will McClay that are running that day-to-day stuff. But
at least that's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. Well, I mean, you can see the fingerprints that they have on the roster that are certainly not as flashy as Jerry Jones would have in the past liked. Right. I do think that there is more truth to that. But I mean, Jerry still, he's the one who's got his, the nuclear football, so to speak, when it comes to the Cowboys. So, you just can't do it this way. And the last almost 30 years have proven that for the Cowboys.
Yeah, it takes some kind of ego to feel like you're still the answer when you've gone as long as you have and you're complaining, about how long it's been. Since you won your last Super Bowl in the glory years, those glory years when there was no salary cap and you were the one that had the most money, so you could basically go be the Yankees every year when you had that massive success, and how since then when everybody else got a, fair spot, you won some division titles, won a couple playoff games, but ultimately if you look back on Jerry, his money made him the big-time Super Bowl champion in many ways, making those big, huge signings that he was allowed to make. And since then, they've tried to do it the way everybody else is doing it, and he's been the GM this entire time, and they hadn't even sniffed it.
To me, the Cowboys are like a restaurant that was like a great local place in your town, and then it franchised, and then you're on the road. Like you're on the road somewhere, and you're like, oh, hey, we can go there. Let's see what this one's like. And you're like, it stays kind of the same, but it's not. It lost a little bit of its luster because that's what the Cowboys are. They're a great local restaurant that was amazing and maybe even bigger than that. But then you go to another place that's supposed to be the same thing and it's not. But that's what they are. They're all flash and no dash right now. It's bad. All sizzle, no steak. Number 2, letting your star player be the GM. This worked out for LeBron. LeBron wasn't even the GM in Miami. He just went and. That kind of went over the top there. But since then, he's been the GM to, lessening results over the years. And eventually the Lakers are going to say, listen, LeBron, of course, it's only a couple more years, but is this really working for everybody here? Letting him be the GM and not the general manager.
I'm not so sure LeBron is not like who runs the NBA.
I mean, if you told me he did, I wouldn't argue with you over it.
Not just the Lakers, but maybe the NBA.
No, I mean, I really wouldn't be surprised. But, yeah, we've seen LeBron the GM, and it was not what LeBron the player is. No. I do think that's in his future. I think he's going to be a part of whatever Las Vegas franchise there is. If you just read the tea leaves and some of the reports out there, he's made no bones about wanting to be in an ownership spot. He's certainly got more money than any other player who's ever played outside of Jordan's post-career earnings all combined into it. But outside of that, LeBron's clearing away the highest earner ever. And so, yeah, I mean, he's going to be in some type of a capacity, but based on the results, maybe he'll be better when he's not also playing. Maybe that's the trick. But, so far, that wasn't the best role for him.
And number 1, trading for Kyrie, which now no one has to do, but because he's opted in for $37 million and not taking the mid-level exception. Now he could still get traded, but the Nets gave him permission to seek sign-in trades. And apparently the only one who's interested was the Lakers, who could only offer the $6 million exception. And, he and LeBron had their past together. They won a title together, but also I don't know if they're fond of each other. I don't know if, who's really super fond of Kyrie just in general. Even if you liked him, if you were going out for wings and beer one night, you'd be like, are we calling Kyrie tonight or is he going to be on one? And, it's just how it is. And he's
so full of himself.
Yeah.
He's so full of himself. A great player. I'm sure he's a great friend. I'm sure, I don't know, but the comments that I see from him, he just feels like he is the smartest dude in the room and everybody else is just stupid dummies that he has to live with. That's the impression I get. And maybe it's a totally wrong impression, but he just feels like a guy, or comes across to me as a guy. Maybe I come across that way to people. But, he just feels like he's so much smarter than everybody else, and we're all just lucky to breathe the same air as him. And hopefully, maybe that's not what he's intending, but that's how it comes across to me, at least.
He won a championship in Cleveland when LeBron was there. He's a damn good player.
Oh, yeah.
But he is what you call a locker room clubhouse killer.
Is he, though? I mean, and yes and no. I mean, I think he's had situations where it's worked out, clearly, because he's won rings. But, there's also been, like you said, multiple examples of him being cancerous.
And I don't think he necessarily killed the locker room in Brooklyn this year, but he made a personal choice that his team had to back him up on. And they all did it. That's the thing.
They had his back, and then but
here's
here's my problem with him. Does he want to play basketball?
Thank you. Good question.
Yeah.
I don't think he does, actually. I really wonder that with all of the extra stuff that has come with, his decisions to play and where. I do wonder that myself.
And look, Kyrie, if you don't want to, it's fine.
Just don't play.
Just don't play. You got lots of money.
But I'm sure there's somebody like, dude, you can make $37 million just by signing up, which he just did by, confirming what he's doing. It's $37 million.
And I saw Aaron Torres, who we had on the show last week, say, watch Kyrie play in 75 games this year.
Well, that's the thing.
30,
exactly.
It's a contract year.
He's going to play in he'll play well when he does play, and then, it'll be enough to go get some max deal from somebody next. You're right. I mean, it's the same song and dance every year. I mean, props to him. Great player. make more money than I'll ever see in my lifetime if he stopped right now. But yeah, I do wonder sometimes if he even wants to be playing basketball. And I definitely believe that he thinks he's smarter than everybody he's ever come across, with the exception of maybe, a couple people, but we're too dumb to understand who that would even be.
He might be an incredible. I've never met him, so it's hard for me to judge a guy like I
Yeah,
did. But
you're right.
And I always have that rule that I've never met him. You can read about him, but he might be the nicest guy in the world. And,
Hope so.
And misunderstood. I don't know, but the trends.
Like Aaron Rodgers.
The Nets are entering next year with Ben Simmons and Kyrie on the same team.
How many missed games combined will those two have?
Not as many as the millions they'll make regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Levi Caraway has been here.